enjoy a nice break away. So our first guest on the programme is Patricia Orme. I'm delighted to say Patricia joins us on the programme now. Good morning, Patricia.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on, Patricia. Thank you very much for joining us. Today is World Oceans Day, and you're going to tell us all about this. It's I was saying to David earlier, of course, we weren't too familiar in relation to World Oceans Day, but I know it's something that you've been working on. You're a joint acting CEO of the Marine Institute, and today is World Oceans Day. This year's theme is the ocean, life and livelihoods.
Yes, so it's today, the 8th of June, is the United Nations World Oceans Day. So it's a global celebration looking to bring people and organisations together across the globe in a series of events to highlight the importance of the ocean and so that we can all learn how we can help protect and conserve the ocean, which is such a valuable resource for us. So I suppose as part of that, the Marine Institute has joined together with a host of organisations in the marine sector to launch the 2021 Ocean of Learning series. And that's our own education and engagement initiative where with our partners we provide free online resource to celebrate and inform everybody about the importance of the seas and the marine.
Yeah, and I know you've carried out a number of surveys as well and some interesting findings. And, you know, like the oceans, it's so important, but there's some startling stats that you found, Patricia.
Yeah, well, I suppose what we want to highlight is really the significance of the ocean as a resource that we have to manage and protect. And I suppose we're all kind of somewhat aware of the influence that it has on our climate and weather. But as our scientists and research conduct, more work, they can see the significance of those findings. So I suppose the ocean, it's supporting diverse ecosystems, countless benefits to our health and well-being. It's a source of food. Fish are a great source of protein, but it's the main source of protein for 1 billion people around the world. Gateway for shipping, as I said, very massive influence on our climate and weather, and for Ireland, an important part of our economy. So I suppose many people mightn't be aware that 50% of the oxygen we breathe comes from the ocean. Wow. So I suppose, in the sense, we all know what, and particularly your listeners with such beautiful coastline along Mayo and Sligo and coming down into Galway, realise, a good walk in the fresh air by the sea does us all good. But it's, I suppose, on a global level, it's more significant than that in terms of the scale or the amount of oxygen that comes in from the ocean. And then I suppose going the other way, carbon dioxide, which we know is one of the main greenhouse gases responsible for climate change, it's naturally stored in the ocean. So the ocean is doing, a healthy ocean and an unpolluted ocean is doing work for us to help prevent climate change as well.
It's interesting. You mentioned that point in relation, to people's, say for instance, for mental health. And we've heard about this certainly since the start of the pandemic, Patricia, about vitamin C. And I mean vitamin C with SCA. When you travel to the coastline, travel to the sea, there's something so therapeutic about it, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and I suppose there is a little bit of science behind that, but I think we all know it from, if any of us who were fortunate to grow up anywhere near the sea or to be exposed to it, be it the exercise factor in terms of the walk by the sea or just the naturalness of the sea air and the saltiness in it being, helpful for our health and lungs. But it certainly has been good for us, I think, through the pandemic to be able to take those breaks by the sea. And then I think we're all looking forward as well to our summer holidays by the sea, enjoying Ireland's coastline. And that's one of the things as part of this Oceans of Learning campaign that we're running, which it's largely on our it's largely online, so it can be checked out on our website, which is marine.ie, or on the Marine Institute social media platforms. But one of the things we're running is a competition called Sea to Me. So it's where we're asking people to upload anything to online that reminds them of the sea or tells what the sea means to them with the hashtag @SeaToMe. So that could be a photograph, a video, music, something to do with a past holiday by the sea or a memory. But I suppose the reason I come on to it is we've a little reel up there from last year we had the equivalent competition last year, and we have a little reel up there with some of the photographs and videos from it. And I suppose looking at that alone would have an impact on your well-being in terms of, the positivity of looking at the Irish coastline. And I think there's one beautiful shot up there of Downpatrick Head, and just lovely photographs. But as I say, it can be a little bit of poetry, a quote, whatever, what reminds one of the sea that one uploads. And we've some nice prizes. This week it's a hamper from Seavite. So they're the natural skincare company making some of their product derived from seaweed. So again, a kind of a linkage there in terms of nature and the sea, and coming back into our natural health products.
And so important to educate the young people as well, and that's the beauty of having this competition, because I know from last week when it marked the start of the UN Decade of Ocean Science. Now, its core objective is to reverse the decline of ocean health by 2030. So one can only assume that really you have to start off with the youngsters, to get them educated here. But in terms of reversing that decline of ocean health, how big of a challenge is it?
Yeah, well, I suppose the great thing at this point is that there is such awareness, and as I say, this UN World Oceans Day and this Oceans of Learning campaign that we are running seeks to educate and inform people. But I suppose the challenge absolutely is there, but it's fantastic that there is such awareness and such a thirst for knowledge, because it's together we can work together on it. So I suppose the scientists in the likes of the Marine Institute, we work to gather data, perform research, to learn about I suppose climate change, learn about the quality of our oceans, learn about the fish stocks, and use kind of data then to kind of model what the future looks like. And I suppose we're the scientists, and we provide that information to government and to policy makers so that they can then, I suppose, regulate and take the right decisions for the globe and for the state of our oceans. But I suppose the oceans of learning, the campaign that we're running with our partners and the likes of Today World Oceans Day, is about educating and informing everybody. So I suppose the challenge is there, but it's fantastic that there is such interest at this point. And we can all, I suppose the part of what the ocean does is take in carbon dioxide and help regulate our temperatures and weathers, but we can all try and reduce our carbon dioxide emissions, and in very kind of simple ways. I think the message is kind of quite small, can be broken down so we can all see how we can have an impact at this point, be that through making responsible travel decisions, sourcing food locally, bringing your waste home from the beach, being very careful on usage of plastics, etc. So I suppose the main thing we'd be asking people just for today and for the length of our campaign is to kind of check out our Oceans of Learning campaign. We've a podcast there, lots of different clips and different information going up together with our partners. As I say, on Marine Institute social media sites, on our website, and just to educate oneself, inform oneself, and I suppose a challenge is there to be mastered or to meet that challenge face on.
And how is Ireland performing, Patricia, say on the global stage?
Yeah, well, we're really fortunate in Ireland in several capacities, in that we've a really good science and research community. Some of the top international marine scientists are here in Ireland within the likes of the Marine Institute with our partner agencies and in the higher education sector. So we're really fortunate to be kind of at the forefront of, being able to learn, develop, contribute to national or international efforts as regards this. I suppose for Ireland itself, we're fortunate kind of as well, being an island nation. The Atlantic is on our doorstep. Our marine resource is actually 10 times the size of the land territory. So I suppose we've a special kind of relationship with the oceans. We've it has an impact on so many lives, and particularly, with through the ocean economy, etc. It's a very kind of valuable and important sector for us. But we're just in a great position that we can collaborate and contribute scientific research, on the international stage. And then we have, I suppose, a very educated and informed population, so that we can do our bit, individually day to day as well.
Yeah. As we said from the outset, you're based in Galway with the Marine Institute. You also have the research centre in Newport. How important is the work that takes place in Newport?
So we have our headquarters is in Rinville, outside Oranmore in Galway, but we have a research facility in Newport. That's been a really important part of our research functions. It's been there since 1955, but has been part of the Marine Institute since 1999. So it's located, I don't know whether you're familiar with it, but it's located outside Newport in the Burrishoole Valley. Really beautiful location, Navan in the background, just a really, really beautiful place. But as regards from a research perspective, it's between the freshwater lake Lough Fia and the tidal lake Lough Furnace, which then enters Clew Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. So it's very unique in terms of having both freshwater and then the tidal lake there as well. It also is extremely kind of valuable from an international research perspective, because of the length of time that it's been there and the length of the data sets. So, in science or in marine science, you don't see change, we'll say, quickly. So you need this historical data sets over time. So that makes the Newport facility a really kind of important hub for both national and international research. So as well as having our Marine Institute staff based there, we also have kind of researchers coming from overseas and many students performing their work. And I suppose there's, in terms of the kind of physical of it, there's fish traps there, our salmon leap trap and the mill race trap, and they're located between the two locks, and we can monitor the movement of fish going in and out of fresh water there, and there's a full record going back to 1970. So we can see then the kind of impact of kind of changes over time in terms of the migration of the fish. I suppose we have a weather station there as well. There's a manual weather station, and also then an electronic weather station, an automatic station that's operated in conjunction with Met Éireann. So when you hear on the news, or when your listeners hear on Midwest about the highest temperature in Ireland being reported from Furnace, that's coming from the weather station at the Marine Institute in Newport. So one of my colleagues, Dr. Elvira, she had a little question and answers in the Irish Times last week, but one of the things she talked about was, that even in Newport, which, beautiful remote location, that even there she can see the impact of climate change in terms of the measurements she's taking in off the loch of, first for carbon dioxide, there were atmospheric pressures of, the high 300s a few years ago, whereas now it's going up over 400. So it's, so I suppose for me to hear, the measurements, what we hear internationally, being measured in County Mayo, it makes it very real for us, and kind of makes the challenge for the likes of the scientists in the Marine Institute, but also for each of us kind of individually to take, our emissions and climate change, and to be responsible in our actions. It really brings home the impact. But I suppose to answer your question, Newport is kind of a unique facility for international researchers, but is extremely important in terms of contributing to the science of the Marine Institute also.
Yeah. And of course you are a Mayo native yourself, from Crossmolina, isn't that right?
Well, that's right. I suppose I'm actually from Moygalna, just outside Crossmolina.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
And tell us what your own path in terms of progression to becoming the joint acting CEO of the Marine Institute.
Yeah. Well, so I'm from, as I said, Moygalna, outside Crossmolina. Originally went to school in Gertnerabbey, looking out on the beautiful Lough Conn and Navan. From there, actually, my own background isn't marine science. I went to University College Galway then at the time, and I studied commerce and went on to qualify as an accountant, and I've kind of taken a pathway since then that has brought me back into the Marine Institute. So I suppose every organisation needs human resource professionals, the accountants, facilities people, to make sure that we keep the resource and support there for the scientists. So for me, it's I suppose really interesting work as somebody who isn't from a science background to come and work with the researchers in the Marine Institute and provide support to them. And I suppose it's fantastic as well to work with people who are so passionate about what they do, and where we can see we're making a real change for Ireland, but also internationally in terms of the contribution to international research, and particularly at this point where, as you've touched on there, the importance of the oceans, climate change, etc. So I suppose this particular campaign, that's what kind of that particular pathway into the Marine Institute leaves me in charge of our communications function, and it's in that context that I'm here talking about this Oceans of Learning campaign and trying to encourage your listeners to engage with us on it.
Certainly, Patricia. Well, as you say, today is World Oceans Day, and the month of June, it's a major month globally for ocean science, and I know you and your team play a key role. And from an Irish perspective, you've also launched a new podcast, as you said, called Oceans of Learning. Just give us that website again in terms of people to take part in that competition. What's the best way to do it?
Yeah, so you can, through our social media platforms, so the Marine Institute Facebook page, Twitter, any of the social media platforms, or if you go onto the Marine Institute website, which is marine.ie, and the podcasts are on, they're Oceans of Learning, and they're on, Spotify and Apple podcasts. You can download those there. So very interesting listening.
Very good. Well, Patricia Orme, a native of Moygana and the joint acting CEO of Marine Institute, thank you very much for joining us, and have a good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And happy World Oceans Day.
Happy World Oceans Day to you and all your listeners as well. Thank you.
You're listening to the Tommy